We are streaming live from Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We've had some great shows. We're up well beyond 75 shows. So we're just keep going. We keep purring. We got lots of people every week. And this show is called Hoboken Talks. Again, it's Thursday night live. And we invite interesting people to talk about the town that they know and love. Past guests have included Bill Miller, Erwin Chussid, Julio Fernandez, Roseanne Lusagano. Don't worry, I'm not going to name all 75. And tonight, we're really happy to have a special guest. I'm sitting here with Alex Rosario III, and we're going to bring him on right now. And we hope you do sign on through YouTube, where you could text in some questions or comments and sort of cheer us on. Welcome. I'm going to shake your hand.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Bob.
Definitely.
Thank you for the entire museum staff for having me as well.
And yeah.
I'm ready to get started.
Excellent. I will mention we have one very important audience member. Do you want to give a shout out?
Yes, my daughter Haley, who's sitting at my 12 o'clock.
Excellent. And so one of the reasons I asked you on is that you grew up at a certain time period in Hoboken, which I'll say was a lot different than now. And most people I'm interviewing are from earlier years or more recent. So can you sort of introduce the time period you're growing up and things that come to mind?
Sure. I was born in 1977. I was raised at 715 Clinton Street, as I mentioned earlier. And back then, we pretty much moved around a lot. So I was at 715 Clinton Street. Then I was at 8th and Willow. Then we ended up moving to 1025 Washington Street. And after that, the landlord wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. So we had no heat. It was cockroach infested. It was one bedroom. It was my sister and I. She's 8 years older than me. So we kind of put two twin beds together to make one bed. So my sister and I slept together while my mom slept on the couch. And we just made miracles, and we were the only Hispanics in the building, which kind of made things interesting. And from there, we got a court order. We got evicted. I had to go move to Puerto Rico for a couple of months. I had to go to school out there. I think I was failing every class except English. And we got the call from Apply Housing, and we got an apartment at 111 Newark Street. And since then, we came back. I was enrolled back in school, in grammar school, and from there, at the age of 23, that's when I left 111 Newark Street.
And what was you mentioned you were the only Hispanic family in the building. How did that make it interesting?
Well, the culture that was there now, or that was there back then, their style of food had a very weird smell to it. So it was like we opened the front door and we lived out the top. So it was grueling, but at the same time you got used to it. So what my mom would do is she'll cook her Spanish food and leave the door open, so the smell will kind of just trigger all the way down stairs. So it was like a competing. It was like, but overall the tenants were good. I mean, there was no issues. We just lived in crappy buildings.
Right. And so would you say you were poor growing up?
Oh, my mom had a 6th grade education. My father was always incarcerated. So it was pretty much my mother, for the most part, raising both my sister and I.
And were you aware of that? Like, did you feel different from other families, or
Yeah, you definitely. I mean, for the most part, the group of kids, we all pretty much were in the same predicament. Not all of them. I would say 60% grew up with just their mom. Um, the father was either working two jobs or working all day, and pretty much what just kept us out of trouble was, going to the park. I had a leisure park right around the corner, so we would always go there and play basketball. And I always made sure that I was there at 11 o'clock, because at 12 o'clock the bus came with the free lunch, and we all looked forward to the free lunches. And once the lights came on, that was our signal to come home. There was no phones, no beepers, no nothing. The lights come on. That was your curfew.
Huh. And it sounds a little bittersweet, like you had your friends you hung out with, but it was kind of hard too.
No, it was extremely difficult. I mean, growing up in a roach infested apartment, and rats and mice, and there was only but so much that we can do. My mom ended up rescuing a cat, which solved the mice problem. But then we had the roach problem. So we'll bomb the apartment so the roaches will go downstairs. But if you have everyone in the building bombing at the same time, the roaches would end up coming right back upstairs. So it was like a game of cat and mouse. They were just everywhere, everywhere, everywhere.
And that can be pretty intense.
Especially when you got them flying at you. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't, I don't have tons of experience, but I did have one apartment where you would see these huge critters and you're ready to stomp them. And then it flies.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a roach. I think it's like palmetto bug or something like that.
No,
And I remember being shocked.
the water bugs.
Water bugs, right.
The water
And
bugs.
who knew they flew?
I know, because they flew straight at me a couple of times.
So we can laugh about it, but it's not really funny.
It's not, but it is. But again, like going through that kind of, when you get to this point, kind of makes you who you are, because you appreciate what you have now.
I think that's true. When you're talking about the competing smells in a building, a lot of people we've interviewed lately have talked about the smells from one block to another. And I think, people don't really think about it, but smell memory is like really strong. So when you talked about it, I just sort of set off bells and whistles.
My sister's traumatized by the smell. She doesn't want to look at the food. She doesn't want to nothing. She's just like, no, I can't take it. I'm still traumatized.
Right. I can tell you, I've been, shall we say, in luxury apartments in Hoboken, 3,000 plus a month, low ceilings. And if someone is cooking, in a sense, their food, which might have a special smell, when you walk down the hallway, you smell the food. So it really doesn't matter if you're in, one style or apartment or another.
You're going to smell it. The smell's going to seep underneath the door.
Exactly.
It's going to find its way out.
Exactly. And it kind of lingers.
It does.
So
it does linger.
Maybe a little different in a house because you're controlling the floors on there. So I think we have a slide of your mom. Maybe we'll bring up because that's kind of interesting. And it looks like you're on a ship, but you had said you don't. How old are you think when you're on this?
I would say I was about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
We were on some type of vessel. One of her friends worked on the vessel, and she brought me along and said, "Hey, let me take a picture of you and your mom."
Right.
And I love my mother beyond words, so it was like I was just so excited just to be on the vessel.
Sure. And tell me more about her, some stories, how she really, in a sense, advocated for you and advice she gave, maybe.
Yeah, she knew I was a handful, and she always told me, you're gonna know when you have your own son, but I'll save that for later on. But she was my rock. She's the one who guided me, and she did her best with the amount of experience that she didn't have much, but she had a lot of common sense. She had a lot of drive. She was ambitious. She always, even though I wasn't rich, she tried to put clean clothes on me and make sure I always looked presentable when we were outside.
And those special socks.
And the socks, the socks are classics. I wish I would have kept them now in mint condition. I probably would have been able to sell them for
well, you can probably pick those up still. And I can't remember, you have a sister?
I have a sister, Anne-Marie.
Right? And she's a little older?
She's like my second mother. She's 8 years older than me.
Okay. And was she kind of in charge of you a bit?
When my mom was working as a bartender, she was tasked with babysitting me. So during her prime, her teenage years, like what teenager wants to babysit?
Exactly.
So she would go out and it was more like, mom said, take me to the park. I'm going to tell mom. She's like, don't you tell mom. So eventually the next day I'll be like, Mom, she didn't take me to the park. So, but I give a lot of credit. I give a lot of credit to her because without her or my mom, like they really instilled a lot of core values on how to respect females and how to respect women, and I always till this day I carry that.
And did she work locally?
She worked in the bar next to Wallace. It was called Chambon's.
Chambon's. Okay.
Now I think they have like a night standing there.
Oh, it's a bar still.
It's still a bar, but
yeah.
I think it might be an Irish bar.
Willow and 11th, maybe.
Yes, right next to the barbershop.
Right. Here's Eric Hammer, one of our regular listeners. The socks are perfect at the same height. Very nice observation, Eric.
To perfection.
Yes, definitely. And the laces are tied nicely too, I'd say. Mom is very beautiful.
Good old Thomas Cans. Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. And tell me, I think we have an image of your dad coming up, maybe. And actually, is that your sister? No, who's that?
No, it's my mom.
Okay, it looks really different, just because of the angle, I guess. And
that's my mom. I don't recall that photo, but as you can see, like we didn't have much, but she always made sure that I was presentable.
Sure. No, I can. And what school did you go to?
First I went to Nuestros Niños.
Okay.
I went there, and then after that I was in Wallace School. Then that's when the transition of the schools changed.
Right.
So I ended up going to Brand School.
Okay.
I did 1 year in Brand School. I graduated there, then went to Hoboken High School. Gotcha.
Okay. Cool. And your mom again?
My mom.
Yeah, she looks so different in the photos. It's interesting. And what's going on there? Is there a quilt or some fabric or?
We were playing dominoes.
I got it.
We were at the beach, and I think I had just gotten out of the water, and I ate. So she's like, "No, you can't go in the water. You got to wait a half hour."
I remember that rule.
Until you go back in the water. So I said, "All right." So
right.
We started playing dominoes.
Sure. Got it. And okay, this is your dad.
That's my dad.
And give me some dad stories.
Well, you can't really see it in the photo too much, but the shirt says Roraway. So he spent a lot of time being incarcerated. So he ended up getting that shirt while he was in Roraway State Prison.
Gotcha.
And if you could see his left shoulder, it's a very poor tattoo, but it says Iris. That's my mother's name.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that's supposed to depict my mom. And the rest of the tattoos, they were just random, I guess, jailhouse tattoos.
Right. I guess the first thing I noticed is their tattoos are much simpler, right? And so almost more like sailor tattoos in the day, which might have been done in-house. And so, it's a tough subject, but were you aware that your dad was in prison when you were growing up, or what did they tell you?
In the beginning, no, but once I would get a phone call and I hear all the noise in the background, because it was a collect call, you have a collect call from,
Right.
and that's when like it started clicking. And then my mom, she didn't want me to be in the dark. She wanted to be honest. She wanted transparency. She wanted to know how I felt about it. And
Sure.
so, we spoke, and I told her, I'm like, a lot of people may think he's a bad man or not a good person, but like when he was around, he showed me nothing but love, and he also showed me a different side of the world, of how things move.
Can you be
Like
specific?
like just street smarts. I had to be street smart, when to anticipate things going on, or if you see something that doesn't look right, just walk the other way, or don't engage. And there's a lot of input, a lot of information that he gave me that I still carry to this day. And he was very influential in my life growing up when he was home.
And do you remember about how old you would have been when when you learned that he was?
I was probably 8.
That's pretty young. Yeah.
And I remember, like, sometimes I'll see videos of our military personnel coming home, and you see the kids running to their dads.
Right.
Well, he wasn't in the military, but when he would come home from prison, like, that's how I felt. I was so excited to see him. I'm running. I'm like, Dad, like. But it was bittersweet, because he was so institutionalized that like he couldn't find a decent job. He couldn't. There was a lot of things that he was unable to do because of his background, probably because of his reputation. But he was able to find odd jobs. There were gracious people that would like give him second chances.
Right. And mainly in Hoboken, or
mainly in Hoboken. He worked in a factory that was there, like on 15th Street.
The Lipton Tea building.
Yeah,
and
he
different.
worked there. He worked in Uptown Video.
Where was Uptown Video?
Right next to the barbershop. Dominic and Vincent.
Okay, sure, on Washington.
On Washington.
Yeah, still there, I think, or maybe they're moving or something.
It's still there, but it's under like new management.
I guess so. Yeah, definitely.
And Uptown Video is like, I don't even know what it is now.
Right. So before, you're sort of telling a funny story about how your dad stood up for you, and that involved D&V, also involved one of our hosts for Hoboken Talks. Can you tell that story?
A story of a long time ago.
Once upon a time.
Stu, I don't know if Stu knows me personally or remembers me, but back then it wasn't no appointment. You walk in, and in the order that you walked in, that's the order that the barber will take you. So I walked in ahead of Stu, and Stu was with someone else. And Dominic said, "All right, who's next?" And Stu said, "Well, I'm next." And I got up. I said, "No, I'm next." And he said, "Buddy, have a seat. You're not next." So I went right next door. I told my dad, I said, "Dad, this guy's trying to cut me." So my dad closed the door. He locked the door to Uptown Video. He closed the gate. He went in, and he said, "My son's next." I was like, matter of fact, and then he goes to him, "Matter of fact, let's go to the park. Let's have a talk." And I don't know if he remembers this. And Stu was like, what are you trying to, you want to fight me, or something along those lines? And it just ended with, no, your son can go next. I don't, there's no issues here. And then my father just took the keys off his neck and went back to Uptown Video, opened the door like nothing happened.
It's a great story. And so we have Miss Haley 01. Where did your parents meet?
Oh,
So is this from Haley, who's sitting like 5 feet away, who texted in? This is great. I love it. We've never had this type of involvement. And
technology.
Haley is like 5, 10 feet away and is cracking up.
My mother was born and raised in Puerto Rico. She came over when she was about 4 or 5. My father was born in New York, and they met here in Hoboken sometime in the 70s. And then I was conceived in 77.
And what was the apartment?
715 Clinton Street.
Right. Were you born at home?
No,
No,
I
you
was
went-
I was born in St. Mary's.
Okay, just want to be sure.
and-
That was your first address.
And then 3 days later, yeah, that was my
Okay,
first address.
just wanted to be sure. I mean, Frank Sinatra was born at home, so you could have been too.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think my mom was able to afford any midwives.
Uh-huh.
I don't
Right.
think Medicaid
Okay.
covered on this.
Sure, you're probably right. It probably wasn't happening too much for anyone. So we have a labeled portrait here. And do you want to talk us and maybe give some more information on some of the people?
Yeah, to the left, of course, is my mom, me, my dad, my sister Amory. Right below her is my cousin Monica, my aunt Martha. Down below is my cousin Jason, and that's my cousin Danny.
Gotcha. And kind of a party dinner, I mean, like a birthday party or some sort of celebration, or
I actually don't know what it was. I just came across the picture, and they had something on IG with like the AIDS memorial, and I kind of wrote to them, and they posted this image, and it created a lot of movement,
a lot of reaction.
a lot of questions, a lot of I just wanted to put in perspective that despite being raised by a single mom for the most part, that your life doesn't have to be the same as your father's.
Right. And so you mentioned AIDS, and just filling in that gap, was how your dad died prematurely.
My dad passed away in 1993 of AIDS.
Right, right. And did you know what was going on, or what was your?
I'm pretty certain that either he contracted it while he was incarcerated or probably doing drugs.
Sure. But did you know that that was his illness?
Towards the tail end, he was always like, he'll get bloody noses and he'll say, "Stay away from the blood." And I always told my mom, like, why does he continue to say stay away from the blood? And back then it was like, it was a disease that they were still trying to figure out.
Right, and a lot of stigma too.
And there was stigma behind it. So he finally told us, and I think that was weighing heavily on him as well. Just the stress of knowing that your demise is coming, is the inevitable.
Right.
And not being able to share that with your loved ones, and not being able to see them, it was kind of an eye opener. But once he told us, it was like I still remember the words. He says it feels like a piano was lifted off his back. So now he was more heavy, even though we knew, but we didn't want to impede. Like,
sure.
So we waited until he was ready to
unload. Yeah. Wow. And was he released from prison?
He was released like in '89.
Right.
And then from there, since I guess he was counting his blessings and he straightened up, but by that time it was already too late. But,
right.
The last remaining years that he had, he pretty much tried to spend it with me as much as he can.
So he came back home during those
Yes.
later years. Wow. Whew. And this is a little weird, but would you get teased by friends about your dad?
No, no one knew.
No one knew.
I suppressed that information for many years.
Right.
like no one knew.
Sure.
And it took me probably, I would say 5, maybe 7 years ago for me to really accept it and talk about it.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure there's other kids that are in similar situations.
Sure. Sure. Again, kind of a weight lifted
Yeah.
too, you know, to talk about it. Wow.
Correct.
And did you have other friends who had, shall we say, you know, the male figure in the house, the dad is undergoing similar issues?
No.
Not so much AIDS, but
No.
just trouble of the law and things.
No.
Right. Wow. Okay, we got a few more pictures that'll probably spark some conversation.
Okay.
And
oh, there we go.
I should mention that we knew each other.
Who's that guy? In the
Long
camera?
time ago. And when do you think this picture is taken? Late 80s?
I want to say late 80s.
Okay.
Definitely late 80s.
I'm going to guess it. We're in Elysian Park with the state-of-the-art recreation equipment. And we have Maxwell House Coffee in the background, now Maxwell Place. And I first met you in an after-school program that was at the YMCA. And it was kind of an interesting program. I think we had cameras. That was my background, photography.
Yes.
And we had cameras which we could give out to people.
Yes.
And they weren't great cameras, but they did the job. And I think we gave you film. Yes. And we had a budget for processing and all that. And we would just kind of explore the town. And so I remember when you came in this year and you had a stack of pictures, you know, and we all get older and look differently, but there's something about your, I'm going to say, photography energy in your eyes that I kind of remembered. And you had a real curiosity back then. Couldn't remember your name. I met Haley before that, and she was saying, "Oh, my dad knows you." And now I'm going, okay, you know, COVID memory or whatever. I just say yes, but it was all true. So it was kind of fun to reconnect with you, as it is during this talk. So tell me about what photography meant for you, because it did kind of change your life a bit.
It changed my life dramatically. Back then, I think now, if kids were to try to get into programs like that, you would have to pay. Back then, it was. I don't know if it was paid by the city of Hoboken, grants, or whatever the case may be, but like these programs kept us out of the streets. These programs kept us out of trouble, and I gravitated towards photography, and I started taking pictures, and next thing you know, I just fell in love with photography, period. And I always carried around with a camera. I have cameras now. I have about 3 or 4 of them. I have GoPros. I have drones. So I'm like a geek when it comes to cameras. And you know, I would like to say and take this opportunity to thank you for introducing me to photography, because a lot of the times, I don't know if you was getting paid to be up there, but it was an outlet for a lot of us that were going through our own issues. So it was like an escape. It was like going to the movies to forget 2 hours of reality. And this was like the perfect opportunity to just capture these, capture this moment. Look at the moment.
Our camera, very nice picture showing Hoboken at this time. That's true. And of course, the equipment's all changed and the background's all changed. And that's one of the fun thing about photography, is that it is recording a moment.
And the park changed.
And the park changed. Yeah, that's what I meant by equipment. Do you remember who this kid is?
Oh, yeah, that's me.
That is you?
Yeah, that's me, the daredevil, jumping off the top tier and dunking the ball, thinking I was Michael Jordan.
Okay.
I got my tongue out and everything.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
I got my tongue out again.
Okay.
I swore I was Michael Jordan. I got Jordan sneakers on.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it was a job, but I was doing a lot of this type of thing in the community, and it was a great way to connect with people. And I've always enjoyed that type of interaction.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was you that probably took this photo.
Could be, it was a bit of a handful because you guys were like, it was organized chaos. And we would pick an area and kind of work it. And I think we used to drive. Also, we'd get in this big gray van that I had, which was called the Bear. And yeah, I'm not sure if I had special travel insurance, but probably wouldn't do it now. But we covered a lot of territory.
We did.
And I remember you guys really had a good time. So that's part of it.
Yeah, we did. We really enjoyed it.
And then in high school, you got very involved in photography too. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yes, my freshman year, I took photography, but the photography was a little bit different. It was more working in a dark room.
Sure.
So once we got our cameras and before we even began in the dark room, we'll get like a breakdown, a layout of what the do's and don'ts.
Sure.
So once we mastered that portion, then it was we were moving forward, taking pictures and going in the dark room and developing them and trying to capture moments. And Miss Florio, that was
your teacher. So a special shout out to her.
Special shout out. I'm Miss Florio. If you're out there, I'm trying to find you because I want to give you a hug and say thank you.
Oh, cool. We'll find her. Okay. It's a common name. There's a lot of Florios out there.
Mrs. Florio.
Mrs.
Okay.
She was married. Okay. And this looks like it's someplace on the waterfront. Sinatra Drive.
That's old Sinatra Drive.
Yeah, old Sinatra Drive. I like that. Are you still in touch with any of your early photo crew, or?
For the most part, I am.
For
the most part, I am. A lot of us gravitated towards photography as well.
Interesting.
A lot of us.
Kept you out of trouble.
It did. It really did. Like there's times that I would want to capture moments while others wanted to go somewhere else. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say I was a saint as a child, but it definitely was very influential to be able to hold a camera and figure out like the whole breakdown of the camera. Once you open it, it's not just taking pictures, it's knowing the components of the camera. And just knowing the components and the history behind it, and having the luxury to go places where my mom said, I don't want you by the river, I don't want you by River Road, but if you're in the drama class and they take you there, I'm okay with it. So it was like a win for me.
I think it's like when you have your own camera, it's sort of a bit of power. You get to control the frame, what's in the what's in the viewfinder, and you make determinations. No one's telling you what to do. And so other media could be a collaborative process with other people, which can be interesting. But just using the camera yourself, you take control, I think. That's cool. And you're wearing a Hoboken Red Wings t-shirt.
Hoboken
born. Hoboken born. And did you play football?
Played football. Yes.
Yeah. Which is, again, more collaborative. It's a team. Did you enjoy that? I mean, it's a lot of work.
It was another outlet. Sports kept a lot of us out of trouble.
Right.
So if we weren't the YMCA, the basketball court, we will be there faithfully playing basketball.
Sure.
Or if it's cold out, snowing, we'll go play football. So sports pretty much kept a lot of us out of trouble.
Right.
And we were just fortunate that nowadays, if you want to play sports, like you have to pay an application fee or this fee, uniform fee. And I think if those fees were there back then, I wouldn't have been able to play nothing because my mom wouldn't have been able to afford it.
Sure. So, I mean, what's a little ironic is your dad is incarcerated, and, didn't have that many opportunities. So, probably went that direction. But the profession that you're in, can you tell us about that?
It's the irony of it is my father spent almost his entire life behind bars, where on the other end of the spectrum, I became a correction officer. So now I'm on the other side. I'm on the other side of the law. I'm on the good side.
You're on the good side.
But the transition to work in a facility like that, for others it might have been like a culture shock, but for me it was normal because this is what I seen all the time.
How do you mean that?
No, normal meaning like since my father was so institutionalized, when I worked in that area or that environment, like I kind of understood where they were coming from. All the little hints that they would say and how they move. And my father would always say, "Watch their hands," and I was always watching hands and like let's say if I had a sick call sheet, I would look to see if the person was right-handed or left-handed. So God forbid if something happens, I know which hand was the power hand.
Yipes.
So that's how in depth that I would go into. But it just made my job easier because a lot of people knew who my father was, and I just treated everyone fairly, and I still carry that till this day, regardless of what race you are. If you keep everything fair, then it makes your job a lot easier.
Right. I mean, just in terms of what you hear in the media about prisons, and it's like the opposite, unfair. The guards have the power and abuse it and, all that stuff. And I know like it's a big system, but that is the layman's perception of it. And I'm sure you hear that also.
There's actually two different types. There's the county jails, which only hold the inmates that can't bail out or they're going to trial. But you can still bail out if you're going to trial. But county jail mainly holds the individual for less than 365 days. Anything over that is considered state. So once you get sentenced, then that's when you go to actual prison.
So you're more dealing with the county jail system.
I'm more dealing with people that are still innocent,
right?
But they're fighting their case.
They're in the jail, right. And so, I don't know. It sounds weird, but do you think of your dad every day when you're in the?
Every day.
Every day, yeah.
Every day.
I would think.
Every day. Not a day goes by that I don't think of my dad or my mom.
Right. That's true. But I'm just thinking of your, being in the system, as a guard, as a corrections officer, you think of it. And earlier you talked about, that phone call and you hear the noise in the background and you go there now and there's that noise and there's all that kind of connections.
The same noise, the same. So sometimes I'm a step ahead of them. They're like, how did you know? It's like, I can't tell you the secret.
How did you know what?
What they were about to do.
Okay.
Or what they're planning to do.
Sure.
So there's certain things that I can go into details, but there's certain things that I can't go into details because it's kind of like a breach of security.
I get it.
So
sure.
There's just certain things that you see and you already know.
Right. And then I hadn't really thought about this, but we hear a lot, but I guess it's quieted down a little bit about, shall we say, immigration issues, where people who, are in violation of immigration law and they get put into the system. And so is that a community you've had to deal with a lot?
We did at some point have INS inmates. As far as the immigrants, it's kind of like I don't want to say a misconception. Like if you come into this if you come into this country, there's procedures. If you want to stay in this country, there's procedures. Now it's I'll say, like, let's say you want to buy a pair of sneakers and they're coming out, but you got to wait online. Now you have people that are waiting online and doing it the right way, and then you got people skipping the line.
Kind of like Stu, right?
Kind of like Stu.
Just kidding, Stu.
Kind of like Stu, but Stu won't get deported. Stu, you're good. Don't worry about it.
Statute of limitations is over.
Yeah, it's over. Statute of limitations. And that's the thing is if they get caught, you don't have to do anything illegal. Coming into the country illegally, it's already illegal. You already committed a crime.
Right.
So they have to just go through the process. Some have legitimate reasons. Some can't be in their country because of whatever happened, and they come to this country to look for asylum. And,
right.
You know, some are granted, some get deported back. I don't really know the ins and outs of how that goes, but for the most part, I don't think we have any INS inmates now.
Right now, right? I think there was like a contract, and maybe that isn't happening.
Yeah,
it was
probably
like a year ago. It was kind of a big thing.
Probably, yeah,
on there, sure. And so you have risen up within the professional corrections officers program, I guess. Can you talk about that, where you are with things?
Well, I'm still classified and considered a correction officer.
Okay.
I've been there 22 years, and the only thing that pretty much ended up happening was I became elected to serve on the executive board. So I did that for several years, and you know, between labor and management and working is adversarial by nature. So
sure.
It's just trying to be on the same page. But at the end of the day, you can't put a price tag on safety. Safety's paramount for everyone.
Right. So are you like the union president or
no? I was years ago.
Okay.
Years ago.
Sure. Right. So you've seen a lot of different positions and so on.
I've seen a lot of different positions, a lot of things that I'll just leave it there.
Okay, you're kind of a straight shooter.
I just saw a lot. I continue to see a lot. So
okay. So we're going to move on. Oh, so we should mention the background. Usually we start with mentioning the background. So there's this huge head behind you, and what is this picture about?
That's me skydiving. I went to Long Island, and I was skydiving. The beads you see around my neck are the beads that I was wearing when my mom passed away. Those are the beads that they gave her. And
are they like rosary beads?
They're rosary beads.
Okay, gotcha.
And just being up there was like the closest I've been to my mom. Like, I felt like I was a lot closer to her up there. And then when I came back down, I was like, all right.
So a spiritual feeling.
Yeah, it was. Like,
and so when you put those rosary beads on because you knew you were going up,
mm-hmm.
and so you kind of had made that connection even before it happened.
Correct.
Sure. Wow. And so coming down was
exhilarating.
Sure.
Exhilarating, fun, exciting, scary. I just also thought about watching the cartoons when I was younger, and they'll deploy and you see a bunch of dishes and bowls and spoons come out the parachute. I was like, please, no dishes come out this parachute.
Oh, okay. Cartoons that you've seen about skydiving. Haley's in the background here, and she's shaking her head like, no way am I doing that. I want 2 feet on the ground. Ellen Frey, a cool image of you in the sky. I'm sure your mom also felt your presence. Wow, that's a good way to put it. And going to move on with a few more pictures, maybe. I know you're a world traveler, and this little kid who grew up on a few different places around Hoboken, 7th and Clinton, and all that. What got you going on travel?
I just wanted to see the world. I wanted my children to also experience other cultures, and I wanted them to appreciate what they have here in the United States. Ever since I didn't even want to go to I didn't even want to go to college out of high school. I wanted to go to the military, but unfortunately things didn't work out. I ended up going to Hudson County Community College, graduated from there in 2001, and in between that time, I got a job working for Continental Airlines, and that also allowed me to travel and gave me the bug.
There you go. Now I get it.
It gave me the bug to travel more, but I just didn't want to see just the Caribbean or the Caribbean. I wanted to venture out and see like I've been to Singapore, I've been to Vietnam.
Sure. Yeah, we have a few more slides which are representing countries.
Mr. John Lennon, the legend himself.
Yeah, and where's this?
This is in Mexico, Carmen del Playa.
Okay. What's your favorite place to go to?
I really love Turks and Caicos.
Where's that?
That's like right next to Puerto Rico, probably a little bit northwest of Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And Ireland.
Right. So Melissa Boyer Cafes, I want to come to visit Hoboken now. Well, what's stopping you, Melissa? Do you know Melissa?
No, I don't.
No, I don't either. Cool. Well, we're here.
We're here, Uber. If you need the address, let us know.
That's right. Come visit the museum. And you're, I guess, in Vietnam?
This is Vietnam.
Wow. Ho Chi Minh statue, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know who that was.
Yeah. It looks like it's a reference to the war, though, from the pictures on the wall.
Yeah, I did tour like the entire where they battled, all the crevices, the holes, the traps.
Sure.
So I was able to experience all of that,
right.
And the food was great.
Right. Haley's right on it. Vietnam was my favorite. So Haley got to travel with you.
Yes.
How old was Haley when she got to experience some of these places, do you think?
She's probably 19.
She's shaking her head. So that's good recall. 19th birthday. What's that? 19th birthday. That's a great birthday. Wow. And travel's so different right now, right? Yeah. But hopefully we'll return. You'll never be 19 again, but yeah. And this is saying goodbye to Dad before he went up.
This was the last words. The last words.
Yeah, definitely.
I gave her the code to the combination.
Here's the safe. Here's the will. No, whatever. Interesting. And
that's my son, Alexander Rosario III.
So here you're kind of smiling, but he's not.
Yeah, it just runs in the genes.
Okay.
We're not smilers. I have like a smirk. I don't know why, but yeah, it was great. It was great to see him graduate, and he's in the process of getting into the military.
Oh, interesting. Which is what you originally wanted to do.
Exactly.
Right? Sure. So I'm going to guess, like kids that you graduated high school with, like what were their aspirations? What year is it, let's say?
From high school, I graduated in 96.
96.
And we all played sports.
Right.
So my father was about 5'8", my mother was 5'1", and I used to pray and faithfully and prayed that I would be like 6'3" or 6'4", and I used to hang on the monkey bars to try to stretch to see if I can grow.
That's what you were doing in Elysian Park.
Yeah. It didn't work. I did have a growth spurt. I grew up I grew to 5'7", and I was like, yes, I still have time. But the man upstairs said, buddy, I'm going to leave you at 5'7". So I'll take it. But I think height wise was more like when you look at the collegiate level, they
Yeah. So you kind of know you're gened out,
yeah,
and
I
it wasn't
kinda
going to
knew
happen.
It wasn't going to happen.
And so, what would your aspiration, like, I'm thinking other kids from your background that you grew up with, was the goal to go to college, or was the goal to go in military, or
The goal was pretty much was pretty much to do as well as you can on the field.
so the sports field?
Sports field to get a scholarship, because our parents couldn't afford college. And
So a scholarship to play sports in college.
exactly.
Right. So that didn't happen for most of your friends for many different reasons. So what paths did they take generally?
Some of them went on to college, probably took out student loans that
Right.
they're still paying to this
Right.
day.
Yeah.
And some went into the military. Some found odd jobs in Hoboken, and they're still working here in Hoboken.
Sure.
And that's pretty much it. It was just, there was nothing really back then. It was just either you're gonna go to college, or after you graduate, you got to get a job. You got to help around the house.
Sure. And do most of the friends who you grew up with, graduated high school, that you're in touch with, do they still live in town?
A good percentage of them do still live here in Hoboken, and a good percentage of them moved out of Hoboken.
Right. And so you eventually move out of Hoboken.
I moved out when I was 23 years old.
Right. And when you come back to Hoboken, how do you feel?
Every time I'm here, I'm just nostalgic. Sometimes I'll just drive to Hoboken and park the car and just walk.
Oh, interesting.
I'll walk from 14th Street to 1st Street. I'll cut through Stevens and just reminisce.
And again, can you be more specific?
It's like growing up in Hoboken. It's like I said earlier. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Hoboken was the best. I mean, I could have been born in North Dakota. Not to say that there's anything wrong with North Dakota, but like being born in Hoboken and the history of Hoboken is not a lot of people have that opportunity.
Right.
They can't say I was born and raised in Hoboken. I can.
But you have such an allegiance to Hoboken.
I love Hoboken. I tell my daughter all the time, if there ever comes a time that I hit the lottery, I will move back to Hoboken in a heartbeat.
Right. But, people say parking, taxes, all those things. A lot of times people just get so burnt out on Hoboken.
I mean, it can weigh heavy if you allow it to. Mm-hmm. But if you're mentally strong and you budget correctly and you're able to have your own parking, then you're fine. I mean the parking,
or give up the car.
Or give up the car, get a little scooter and
fold
it up, and
electric bike,
and bring it upstairs.
Right. February is tough, but I think a little more. I think people are doing it more.
But that's the challenge.
That's right. That's solving that problem.
See if you can get through the snow.
Yes, definitely. So, but okay. Can you think of your favorite thing in Hoboken?
My favorite thing,
besides going to D&V and getting haircuts,
would be either going to Elysian Park every morning to play basketball, or 4th Street Park to play basketball.
And that's something you did starting at what age, do you think?
I had to be at least 7 or 8.
Right. And is the equipment better now?
Oh, of course. I mean, they redid all of 4th Street Park. They redid Elysian Park. Elysian Park, we were literally playing basketball on a hill.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you remember the hill?
Yes.
Yeah. So you had to hit a special kind of jump shot. Like you had to really be precise on that jump shot because it was either if you miss, it was rolling all the way down the Hudson Street.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so like the sound of the basketball is important, or what? I'm still not getting it.
Not the sound. It was just like we were so competitive. Like everything was competitive. Even Wallace before they put the little swing things that they have there.
Yeah.
We used to play baseball there.
Right.
Like it was a mob of us that would go there
Right.
every day. So we weren't playing baseball. If you roofed the ball, the game was over.
Right.
But it was like literally like teams were waiting to play. Like we had people
Really?
waiting
Right.
just to play baseball.
So Eric is saying it's in your blood.
Always.
Okay. The
Yes.
Hoboken is in your blood. So that's kind of cool, Eric. But I guess part of it is like you are re-experiencing your childhood again.
I am. Every time I come to Hoboken, it's always my daughter tell you as well. They're probably tired of hearing the stories. They're like, "Oh, we heard the story. Oh, we heard this story." But just walking through Washington Street and just seeing how everything changed. What stores were where. When I was younger, I always tried to help my mom. So I was working in Mr. Wonton's, which was right across the street. I think I was 11 years old. I don't even think I was supposed to be working. But they knew that I knew my way around Hoboken. So they would pay me $5 a day plus tips. So I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, I'm making $5 a day." So she's like, "Well, we lived right across the street. So she always had eyes on me." And then working there, then I did the newspaper, the Hoboken Reporter. We used to do the Hoboken Reporter. We used to do Hoboken, Weehawken, and parts of Jersey City. And this was all at a young age.
Right.
Just to like help compensate for my mom
Sure.
and
Sure.
help her out financially.
Right. And so you're kind of getting into, you've put in a lot of years into the corrections. Are you thinking of the next phase? Would you retire and take on something else?
The next phase should be coming up pretty soon. I retire in about another 3.5 years.
That'll go fast.
Yeah, I hope so.
One day at a time.
But yeah, I decided in 2017. I decided to go back to school to get my bachelor's. I graduated in 2019, and I just wanted to keep my options open because I want to retire. But you know, when you retire, you still have to put into Social Security and.
Sure, but you don't seem like the retiring type.
No, I'll probably find something else.
Sure,
but
sure.
I'm still contemplating whether I still want to stay in New Jersey or move out of New Jersey.
Ooh, and so when you return to Hoboken, it'll just be that more special, right?
When I return to Hoboken, hopefully I can win the lottery in the next 3 years.
Okay, then you'll stick around.
Then I'll stick around.
Okay. I think we got a couple more pictures, as I remember, but we're kind of winding down. So some other family shots.
That's my sister Amory.
Okay, your babysitter.
My babysitter, my protector, my backbone.
Very cool. And we have another shot. Tell us what's going on here.
That's Sulow. That's my therapy dog. I bring them to like VA centers and senior citizen homes and just volunteer work that I do on the side.
Mm-hmm. What kind of dog?
It's an American bully.
Okay. And how often do you do that? I mean, COVID probably got in the way a little, or
COVID did get in the way. But prior to that, I would probably go like once a week.
Oh, cool. Excellent. And I'm not sure. We're getting to our hour. Is that the last slide? I think so. Anything else you want to present or discuss as we're winding down?
I just really appreciate being on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, good stories. And another lover of Hoboken, a different time period, different generation.
Different
So
time period.
kind of cool to see that theme carries through a lot of people.
Exactly.
And kind of wish you were still living here. But I get to hang with Haley pretty frequently. So that's 1 degree of separation on there. Okay. So I want to thank you again. We will continue this program on the Thursday night, 7 p.m. This will be archived on YouTube, so definitely tell your friends to check it out. And then we do a few thank yous at this point. Again, mentioning upcoming shows will be with Paul Drexel, who, again, a resident, he grew up in Hoboken, ties to Hoboken, but lives in another town now, but loves Hoboken, has great stories, really good poet. And then after that, we'll be interviewing Kelly Clancy, who is a more recent resident of Hoboken, really good artist, has done shows up here in our upper gallery, excellent printmaker. And we look forward to her. And then we also mention different supporters of the museum and of this program. And Mel Kernan, who passed a period ago now, but included us in his estate planning, which was very thoughtful. And we just really want to thank his family, who some are still in Hoboken. Also, one of the great state agencies is the New Jersey Historical Commission, who helped fund some of the equipment that we're using tonight under a special grant. And then New Jersey Council for the Humanities has really stepped up, and they will be funding our next exhibit, which will open in January. So we're very thankful to them. And then we have a group of individuals known as the Shipyard Circle. And these are people who have donated at a high level, and we do recognize them. So it's a lot of people who make things work financially for the museum, and we do thank them every day. Our principal supporter is Applied Companies, Applied Development Company, also known as Cast Iron. And you kind of, Alex mentioned they kind of rescued you a bit when you were looking for a stable apartment after going through all those other apartments. And so Applied has given us the space that we're broadcasting from. They did make the museum a solid entity by deeding, or I'm sorry, renting the space for 100 years at a nominal rate. So we thank them every day. And then we always do interesting events, or at least we think they're interesting. And this Saturday, we're doing a vegan dinner. And it's put together by Andrea Kronig, who works, her organization is called Hoboken Naturally, and she is really interested in veganism. And we said, sure, let's host a dinner. It's our second dinner. We still have about 5 or 6 more tickets left. You could scan the QR code and go to the ticket page. This will happen this Saturday in the museum walkway. And I will mention that not only is it vegan, but it's actually a great dinner. So if you're looking for good food, vegan or not, this is the event to attend. And that is taking us close to the end. But of course, there's always a few more things. And just because we can't do enough here. And we do encourage people to come see our main floor exhibit, which is called The Avenue, A History of Washington Street. And it's gotten a lot of good attention because whether you're 4 years old, if you've moved away, or you're 86 years old and you spend time in Hoboken, you know Washington Street, from Shonings to the El Gallo supermarket. And then in the upper gallery, we have a few more weeks of an amazing photo show, photographs from the 70s and 80s by Carol Alibian. And we've been having people come in and noting who these young folks are in the photographs, and that's been a lot of fun. And that will be up until September 4th. And then we just want to remind you that we'd love you to share, subscribe to YouTube, and make comments. We may have had, who knows, 25, 50 viewers tonight, but over time, this will get up to, several hundred. So it lives on. And some very popular shows have gotten as many as 1,000 hits by our good friend Stu Chicharella. So anyway, we want to thank you for this program, for the listeners, and we want to thank Rand Hoppe, who is our director and engineer, for seeing us through, giving us good visuals and good sound. Signing off.